Hello friends, welcome to the New Rules of Business Season 2. As you know, in Season 2, we are speaking to disruptors, entrepreneurs who are dismantling the old rules of business and establishing the new rules of business. In this edition, we speak to two disruptors. These disruptors have vowed to disrupt the beverage industry and in the process create a brand they want us to fall in love with, Paperboat. Meet Neeraj, the person who dreamed the idea of Paperboat. Meet Shripad, the person who took his dream, converted it into a brand and had enough confidence to also invest in it. So Neeraj, how did you get the idea of Paperboat?
I think, so we started the company thinking that we will do functional beverages revolution, and at some stage we realized that the inspiration has been coming from the West, the functional beverages which have worked well there. However, what we truly like ourselves is what is there in our history, like the drinks which have been with us for centuries, and where the recipes have been passed from one generation to another. And we were in love with Ampanna, and we wanted to make this as the beverage. And at some stage, we started thinking, can we launch it as a brand? And that was a very, very early stage of the company, and we started thinking about launching these traditional beverages in a packaged, hygienic form for Indian consumers.
Shripad, when Neeraj came with this idea, just this idea as he discussed, what gave you confidence in this idea that it can become a mega brand?
Two things. One was the fact that the entire ethnic drinks category was just not present in India till Paperboat came. It was through Amras, which was, wouldn't really call it a large ethnic drink category, it was more of a juice drink in India. That was one. So it was to foray into a completely new category and do something pioneering there. That was what excited me. And the second thing was Neeraj himself, who, when we were there earlier in Coca-Cola together, he was one of the youngest and the brightest, and which got reinforced when he came back from Wharton and met me and asked whether I could invest. So you always invest in people. That's my philosophy, and it's, I think, paid off.
Neeraj, normally startups start with an idea, but when they implement it into the marketplace, many challenges come up. So you have to keep on changing your strategy as you progress until you finally come out with a strategy that works. Did you in Paperboat also have to pivot many times, change your strategy while on the fly to achieve the kind of success or the successful strategy you've now got?
I think in the early stages, when we went to Shripad to say that we want to launch these traditional Indian beverages, he gave us few words. Like, he charges a lot of money to give you few words, and so he gave us two words called alive and authentic. And every single thing we have done since then, every single thing, like whether it's the communication, whether it is the packaging design, whether it's the recipe, whether it's the, it's not only the brand, on the product side, the process which you use, the ingredients which you choose, we always use these two words in our every single day life. The packaging, alive for us is contemporary, young, fashionable, cool, and authentic is innocent, pure, natural, and as how it should be. And it's always a mix of these two things. Like, packaging is alive, and the stories are alive, the drinks are authentic, and the ingredients are authentic. So I think every single time whenever so I think those two words have defined our journey, and they have kind of put somewhere two walls beyond which we couldn't go out, and hence probably we didn't divert too much. So it has been a fortunate journey that way, that you don't have to pivot or do something different on the way.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Shripad, you come from Coca-Cola. You guided the destiny of that brand. Brands like Coca-Cola spend billions of dollars in advertising to create customer preference. Now you're guiding Neeraj, Paperboat, a startup company, which is always, like all startup company, is stressed for resource, doesn't have funds. So what was the magic formula that you gave Neeraj, based on which, without spending so much money, he is able to get people to prefer and choose his brand?
I think brands like Paperboat do well not because of resources, but because they tap into something deep in the consumer's psyche. At at a mass level, the societal trend that we were tapping into was the fact that while materially Indians were improving their lot, I think somewhere there was a longing for simpler times. You know, you go to anybody in Bangalore and ask, how are you doing? They'll say, well, but you know, Bangalore 30 years back was great. And there was somewhere a longing for this simple, uncomplicated life. That was a very powerful societal trend to really tap into. That was one which I think helped Paperboat. If you do a good job of connecting with the consumer at a very, in fact, where he talked about authenticity, I think there is an authenticity of emotions as well beyond the product. And if you tap into a powerful human emotion, you don't need a lot of money, but you need consistent work. And I think that is what has worked for Paperboat.
Neeraj, you worked in Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola as a strategy has limited flavors in which it invests huge resources. There's a cola, there's a lemon, there's an orange. But in Paperboat, you violated what you learned in Coca-Cola. You have a proliferation of flavors.
I think first couple of years, when we started it, was unlearning a lot of what we have learned, like a lot of what was taught to us. I think that the thing is, and this is the thing which you learn more from the technology companies. In the traditional consumer goods company, there is always this thing about do something and then keep perfecting that. And the consumer feedback is important, but not as much. However, a technology company keeps adapting all the time, like your interface for your Apple or iOS or Facebook or anything, interfaces keep changing all the time because they keep taking feedback and keep improving all the time and keep changing and keep adapting. And we to a certain extent learned it from a technology company, unlearned with what we learned from the consumer goods company, and say that can we adapt, can we improve, can we change all the time our recipes, the products which we put out in the market. I think that's where probably the difference between a new age consumer goods company versus probably a old age consumer goods company.
Neeraj, normally a startup is always stressed for resources, people, money, etc. So easy way out is to outsource most of the critical functions which include manufacturing. You seem to have violated that. You've gone ahead and invested extensively and heavily in manufacturing.
See, when the words given to us are alive and authentic be the key word here, then in some and you are depicted by showing memories and emotion of innocence of childhood and all. So if authenticity is the promise which you are making to your consumer, then you have to live up to it, right? Otherwise the consumer would punish you badly. So every single thing which we do it to make sure that our drinks taste very authentic, like the ingredients and the recipes and the process of making it. So if that's the core promise, and every single time you go and talk to, I'll give you authentic taste, then you can't think that this is a function which is not important. Then that becomes a critical part of your game plan, and you have to have that in house. So delivering that authentic taste or delivering that authentic experience is what we are born to do, and that's what we probably would do every single time. So I would say for us, that's being the core function. We couldn't have ever outsourced it. We couldn't trust anybody else to make it as good as we make it ourselves.
Paperboat has a limited shelf life. Plus, Shripad, you know how complicated and nightmarish distribution is in India. So Neeraj, how did you overcome these two twin nightmares? Limited shelf life and a nightmarish distribution system in India.
I wish I would have overcome it. We are still struggling with it. Like we are still struggling to build our distribution. See, right now we are in a fraction. Like we are in like 5% of the total outlets where Coke would be present in, and there is a long way to go. Like we on simply increasing your distribution and reaching that 20x more number of outlets would be the game plan for next few years maybe. I think this is a challenge. This is a challenge for a startup company, because mom and pop stores, though it is once you are there, then you can be there for a longish time, but it's very, very difficult to go there, display your product, and let the consumer experience it in the right experiment. No, we haven't overcome it. The answer is no. Yeah.
Shripad, as an expert who's cut his teeth in Coca-Cola, where distribution is the key to success, how do you respond to the challenge that Paperboat now offers you?
I think Neeraj is probably better qualified to answer the question, but I think um, fundamentally there has to be a very fine balance between pull and push, really, because beyond the point, especially for short shelf life products, if the supply chain is not managed very narrowly, and I'm learning this in my new food business, it can be quite lethal for the business. So yes, there is no substitute for just planning, changing, improving, learning. That cycle never ceases, really. To an extent, I think the Coke system, with its at least in metros, the daily delivery, taught a lot in terms of what it is to manage a supply chain which is not based on just dumping and going away. I think that was really distribution system which comes in handy now.
So what was your advice to Neeraj on distribution?
Actually, I didn't give him any advice on distribution. I think
we are not doing a good job there.
I think
this on that.
no, I think he's experimenting, and he's come up with some interesting partnerships for reaching outlets which he can't. But
Sripad only says that wherever we are doing good, that I have given advice.
no, I don't claim to be an expert in distribution, so I will not pretend to be one. But yeah, I think the opportunity is enormous. I think the brand can go everywhere in the country. The potential of the brand is that it can go anywhere. The question is of managing the supply chain and also the price point with right offerings. Yeah.
Shripad, in the earlier part of our discussion, what made you invest in Paperboat were two things: the concept and Neeraj. When Neeraj came to you with this idea, what were the leadership traits that you saw in Neeraj that gave you the confidence to invest in him?
This might be repetition, but Neeraj was one of the youngest, and I say one of because there is a dispute with another person who is a well-known name now, that he was the youngest general manager in the Coke system, and one saw his profile emerge at every discussion when we're talking about high potential guys. So one knew that Neeraj was top class. It was not as if he was on my team, but I think when he came with Hector, in fact that was before Paperboat, and with Zynga, which was a functional beverage in the energy space, I think the way he was approaching it was a very different approach, very refreshing approach, and that really made me seriously consider investing, and that was my first angel investment, really.
But what were the leadership traits that you saw in him?
I think two or three things. One is leadership less from a people, because at that time they were still building the team, but from a very from a clarity of what do I want to do, what is the specific space that I want. I don't want to be a me too to Red Bull at that time. This is how I'm going to be different. This is going to be my differentiator, and packaging was a big part of that as well. He was very clear that these are the 4 things I want to do. Second thing about Neeraj, and that's a great leadership trait, is that I don't think he believes in market research at all. Do I believe in it? Yes and no. But Neeraj doesn't believe, and he's very clear. Every time we worked with him, whether it was on Paperboat or now on Top Secret, he's told me, and I asked him, should we ask a few consumers? He says no. Just apply whatever your experience is, and I think that requires tremendous confidence in your ability. So clarity of purpose of what I really want to do, and confidence in your ability. I think these were 2 big leadership traits.
Shripad, you mentioned that Neeraj does not believe in market research, and as you said, you partly believe and support him and partly you don't. If he doesn't believe in market research, so what does he believe in?
I think he believes in consumers. I think Paperboat is a consumer success. I think it's less a product success and more a consumer success. Products are easy to replicate. The kind of feeling that consumers have and they articulate about the brand just shows that it's a much loved brand beyond just the product. And I think that comes because I think he believes in consumers.
I would like to, so I don't, it's not that I don't believe in the concept of market research. I believe in the concept of market research. I do not believe in my ability to read the results of that market research. Like, it's a shortcoming in me that, when the consumer is telling something in front of a camera or in a group discussion or in a quantitative interview, I don't know the intention behind it, what should I read, what is the meaning of that sentence. And I do not have that capability. So I have to realize what are my shortcomings, and one of them is that I do not know how to read the consumer research, and hence I don't do it.
And Shripad, as your partner and co-colleague now, helps you decode the market research based on his experience.
Shripad, does almost, like, he has guided us on every single. See, he's been the mentor, right? Like, he has been the signpost which has he has put walls around us and say, don't go beyond it. And then you will have to go around it. And whenever we have diverted on one side, he just gently, tapped on your shoulder and said, okay, you're going in one direction, and it's probably not the right thing. So I think he has been a consistent, in some sense, he's drawn some boundary lines within which we can play around and do your own stuff, but beyond it, if you cross, I think it kind of hurts the brand and etc. And I think we've benefited immensely from that, those lines.
Shripad, let's come to competition. You, as I keep on mentioning, you worked in Coca-Cola, and now Neeraj has Paperboat. The face of competition has changed. When you were at the helm of Coca-Cola, competition was direct. Your direct competitor was Pepsi or other beverages. For Neeraj, competition is not direct. It's invisible, cross-industry. So, how do you advise and mentor Paperboat in this era of the changing face of competition?
Yeah, I think it goes back to an article I read on day one of my business school by Theodore Levy, which is asking the question, what business are you really in? And I think if we describe ourselves as being in the ethnic drinks business or the soft drinks business or any kind of drinks business, that's a very manufacturer forward look at things. The way we define business is ultimately what deep need does it satisfy in the consumer. And I think the need is as much emotional as it is functional in the case of Paperboat. So I think the key question to be asked really is what need do I satisfy, and then your competitors start emerging and you go much beyond traditional competition.
So Shripad, when you pose this question to yourself, what were the emerging competitors that you have to contend with Paperboat?
So this might sound bizarre, but Paperboat's space is really the space of reclaiming some bit of control from this the hurly-burly of life, which is, as somebody said, jammed in fast forward perpetually. I think it would compete with a garden patch in your home. It would compete with that weekend you take off just to escape or to rejuvenate. I think that's the larger competition, if you ask me, because what it does is it satisfies some deep emotional need beyond just the product.
Shripad, if I understand and decode you correctly, you mean to say, and rightly so in your thinking, there's no competition for Paperboat. It's just about the human emotions.
No, I don't say. I'm saying it's a mix of both. There would be functional reasons, and there would be several functional reasons for. I'm pushing him to launch his Neermore in Bombay, which he's not done that. There could be functional reasons for consuming many of his offerings. But I think at a collective level, it meets a very deep need. And if we look at competition only as the next Amras guy or the next Neermore guy, I think we would not be building a brand as strong as this. I think we look at it beyond just the.
Shripad, the category that Paperboat operates in is created by you and is largely being popularly referred to as ethnic drinks category. Being a Coke veteran, how do you think Coca-Cola and large companies like Coca-Cola would be viewing this segment dominated by Paperboat?
I actually will answer this in two parts. One is that very often large companies tend to ignore upstarts because they are very small to begin with. The problem arises when the inflection point is touched and then the growth is exponential, and then it's too late to really react. That is the part one of the answer. The second part is that very often large companies cannot make a success of new categories such as these, which require some gestation before that inflection point is reached, because the systems in these large companies are geared towards high volume, high throughput, and the system doesn't pay enough attention to these brands, and I think which is something in our favor really. We need to quickly reach that inflection point, but fundamentally it's a question of ignoring, which I see as a malaise in most large organizations.
Neeraj, as Shripad said, Coke and Pepsi could be ignoring this small ethnic drink segment that you've created. But when the inflection point is reached and the segment becomes large, they're going to look at it. Neeraj, are you prepared to defend your turf when Coke and Pepsi enter it?
No, I think, having worked there, right, you have nothing but respect. And if I was working in a large company and I worked in there, right, so as a system, you are made to defend the bigger products. Like, when the new product was being launched, I as a general manager wouldn't take care. Like, I was more worried about health of Thumbs Up and Coke and Limca as a brand, because I was incentivized to do so, and rightly so, absolutely rightly so. So the system has, in the early stages of a brand, is not the best system for a brand to thrive. But whenever that situation arises, we are in a niche place playing our own game in a very small corner, and whenever that game arrives, if we have to have competition, I think the strength which we have is innovation. Like, we are faster, nimbler, like we can move, take decisions quickly, and launch products, like which we are doing continuously, right? Our supply chain is geared to work on smaller MBQs, etc. And the system is designed to be innovation friendly, and I think that's where our strength is. Like, our model is different, our model of doing things, our way of looking at things is different.
Neeraj, if I were to take you up on this, can you share what are the innovation that you've introduced to the beverages market?
See, I think first is like all these variants, right? None of these variants were made before and packaged in a certain form. Packaging was an innovation. We are very proud of this cap. We think it's the best cap in the world. You normally used to have the normal round cap. And in aircraft, I saw some lady struggling with opening that, and then she used her mouth to peel it, and I felt really bad. I said, like, she's my consumer, and how can I let her go through this inexperience? And then we created this cap, which we think can be opened with 2 fingers, and it's user friendly. It completes the shape. It's like a hat on this lady, and all of that. So and more innovation like this. I think the one thing which we are really proud of is this. This is the thing which we learned from Zara as a fashion company, introducing these small special edition things, like which will be there on shelf for some small time and then disappear. So these are festival drinks, appointment drinks, which are which we launch. For Holi we launch Thandai, for Ram Navami we launch Panakam, for Ramzan we launch Sharbat, and so on and so forth. And you launch it, you make it only once or twice in a year, and then let it be there in the market for 15 days and then move out. That kind of creates a lot of excitement, that gives consumers something new, that you are being part of their lives during the festival when it matters. And I think that kind of that as a way of doing business is something which is pretty innovative, like nobody has done in the normal food and beverage space.
Neeraj, you spoke about the various options that you give, and you use some awesome terms like brand by appointment and so on. What's your portfolio strategy? How do you build your portfolio of Paperboat?
I think, see, there are like 8 or 9 core products, which are your year-long, everywhere around the country kind of products, which is where we earn money. And then there are products which are there in regions, so we're launching Soul Curry, and which will be there in primarily West, and then there are things which are by time, like these are drinks which are launched in particular time of the year, like Panakam and Thandai and all, so which will be there for a certain this thing. And then there are actually a couple of drinks which are launched for certain channels, like which are there only for travel and other stuff, which we don't sell anywhere else. So essentially, I think it's a mix of you're slicing and dicing the consumer segments in different ways. So looking at the consumer and not looking at this large mass you want to cover, but like slicing and dicing and creating those smaller groups which you want to serve.
So you have a national strategy, regional strategy, city strategy, festival strategy, travel strategy.
Yeah, it sounds complicated, but it's not. So these are some small consumer segments which you are trying to tap into.
Neeraj, as you said earlier in the interview, you've taken the recipes which have been there, a part of our culture for hundreds of years. All these recipes, including ampanna, can be made in every single Indian household. So why do people come and pay you for taking a paperboat ampanna?
I think, see, there are two parts of it. One is it can be made, like when it is not being made, because there is convenience factor involved, right? So soul curry, we talked about it earlier, right? So that's actually Shripad's mom's recipe, and I am not very sure whether he is getting it in when he's not going to Goa, his hometown, and he's not getting it in Mumbai, right? Like, so he has to go to his mom and then get that product because it's not being generally made at home right now. It's a tough product to make. It's like you have to get the coconut, grind it, do all that stuff, and get the kokum, and there's a lot of work involved. So I think convenience is one big factor, which is what is driving the movement towards our products. And B, I think is the taste, right? Like, so we believe that these tastes develop over generations. Like is these recipes. So our R&D department started in 500 BC or something. And that's when the first somebody experimented for the first time, and then we have been capturing on those years of research which has been done for us to make these products right now.
But so recipe is universally available on, say, Google. You are offering convenience, and that's the reason why people are coming and picking up paperboat.
Yeah, and getting the raw material. Like so one of the drinks which we are making in kanji, and traditionally it used to be made with purple carrots. Those carrots have disappeared. Now we are the only company which is like getting those carrots to come back to India. We're getting the seeds from Turkey, sowing it in Ooty, and then making that drink with the right ingredients which are no longer available on the shelf for the consumer to pick up.
Neeraj, talking of aspiration, today Paperboat, the brand, is available in leading retail shelves, whether it's Big Bazaar, Reliance Retail, or mom and pop stores. Do you also envisage do you aspire for a time when Paperboat would be available on Walmart and Carrefour, which is globally available?
That's the dream, right? I think what we, in the end, every single time I see where it will go, I see a shelf in Sydney where there are drinks from all over the world and under Paperboat brand name. Like right now it's Drinks and Memories of India, and someday it can be Drinks and Memories of the world. And so you as a small company, there is no resources which you have right now which you think I can become that, but you can always dream, and you can always dream that one day I will have Drinks and Memories of the world, or which in some sense brings the world a little bit closer, right?
But what do you have to do to make your dream fructify?
I think what we are doing is the right things, right? Like I think we need to have stay focused and do the things which are right for the brand. Keep the authentic promise alive and make it alive, like make it contemporary, young, fashionable for the youth of today to not be alienated from the whole category. I think these are the two things we are doing, and we should continue doing that.
That's for the local market, and you feel that this formula will also work globally?
I think everybody, you'll be very surprised. Every country in the world makes paperboat. The kids in every country have made paperboat. Like in Italy they make paperboats, and in Australia they make paperboats. It's such a universal phenomenon that taking a paper and folding into a boat form and just putting in the water. Actually, if that is a universal phenomenon, then this is also a universal.
Wonderful. Shripad, coming to you, you built your career in 1980s and 90s when entrepreneurs who set out to do business had only national aspiration. Here's Neeraj sitting next to you, who has global aspirations and dreams. What has changed in the mind of entrepreneurs that these young entrepreneurs have global dreams?
I think our role models have changed. I think our role models now are people who have taken risk and succeeded. I think what's changed is the supportive environment where risk is rewarded. Failure is still punished, but risk is rewarded, I think. I think that, and an ecosystem which is becoming global. So like I said, with these role models changing, the ecosystem being more supportive, I think more and more people are taking the plunge to try out new things and experiment. I don't think there is a better environment for experimentation than it is today. I think that's really. You want to add something on that?
No, I think NRN is the role. So for me, Narayan Murthy is the role model, and he thinks about like he doesn't see boundaries. Like for him, like he doesn't see where India ends and where America starts or something. Like he thinks everything is fair game, and it doesn't matter that if you're an Indian company or American company. I think that your consumer is there everywhere around the globe.
Shripad, coming to you, and this is a general question not connected to Paperboat. From the time you cut your professional teeth in 80s and 90s to the time today when Neeraj is flying high with Paperboat, what are the changes in the business environment that have taken place?
I think fundamentally the pace of change that the consumer was undergoing has increased dramatically. So the consumer was moving or evolving at a certain rate of change. That has increased dramatically. In fact, data capture also mirrored that pace of change, which is why you had strategies which withstood the test of time for a longer time. I think with the consumer evolving, with metrics which capture this evolution on a real-time basis now, I think the pace has significantly changed. I think that is the one big change that I see.
Data analytics, you took decision and data came in 30 days later to either back your decision or to prove otherwise. Whereas people like Neeraj have real time or a lag data which is just 7 days old. So they have much more data to take decision. That's one big change.
More than the data, I think it's about the fact that the consumer was not evolving fast enough at that time. So 30 days was fine for those days, and everybody was in the same ecosystem. So I'm looking at the differential between the consumer evolution, data capture, then and now. If you really look at that, there was no need because the consumer was not exposed to various concepts, not evolving fast enough. So,
Neeraj, for you, it is now generally said, as we spoke about competition, that you have cross-industry competitor, etc. Now, the new concept is disturb or destroy. Today, like you have come and disturbed the beverages industry, some young entrepreneur may be in his garage working to disrupt you, coming out with a new concept. So, how are you disturbing and destroying your own business?
No, I don't even know whether we have disturbed the beverage industry or something on that sort, but I think every single day, I think the whole point is not to be satisfied with what you have done. I think the point is, so we enjoy change, like we enjoy innovation, we enjoy doing newer things. And I think that's the part which is keeping us, like which is the part which is the most exciting part, like when you're making a new drink or thinking of new lines or thinking of new forms of packaging, everything, you enjoy that bit. I think that's there in the core DNA of the company, and that's the part which everybody feels very excited about. That's the set of people who have come together rather than doing the same thing over and over again. And I think we'll keep doing the innovation bit for a longish time in future.
Shripad, when you look inside the Paperboat business model, what do you think is the soul of Paperboat that is actually striking a chord with customers?
The last 2 or 3 times that I've called Neeraj, I found him once in Jalgaon. I think trying to source mango, was it? Yeah. 2 months later, I call him and he's in Los Angeles trying to source some anar, pomegranate. I think if authenticity is the core, live authenticity will come to, but yeah, if that's the core, and that's the reason why he set up his own manufacturing units to protect that. I think the amazingly relentless focus on doing whatever is right to deliver that authenticity is, I think, the spirit of Paperboat.
Yeah, I think so we mangoes, right, ripe mangoes. So we for last 2.5 months, every single person in the organization, like every single man, like is worried about whether we are sourcing the right mangoes. So we do not ripen our mangoes in ethylene chambers, which everybody else does. So we ripen it naturally, and that takes like humongous amount of effort in terms of manual labor, in terms of just keep turning it for 10-15 days and keep covered with straw and grass and other stuff, and then the mangoes would ripen. And I think that's and all of us are focusing. Every single one, like we're working in sales food. If you go and ask, and he say, "Oh, our mangoes are the best. Like we are sourcing the best mango." So I think the organization focus to get the best fruit for our products, like the bestest best. Like there's nothing better than the mangoes which we'll put in our thing, is what makes our products the real authentic product. And we do it for every single fruit, every single piece which we take. We work really hard to make sure that we put the right ingredients in our products.
Friends, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did with Neeraj and Shripad. If you enjoy this conversation, do remember to share it with your friends. They too would enjoy listening to this conversation. If you need to speak to me, do remember to write to me at or follow us on Twitter. We'll be back with another set of disruptors, entrepreneurs who are dismantling the old rules of business and installing a new rule of business. Goodbye till then. Thank you.